Hello and welcome. You're watching Gravitas. My name is Priyanka Sharma. Here's what's coming up tonight. Imagine being stuck in a building. You're locked down, trapped. Your movement restricted. In fact, there's even a system in place to track your steps. No, I'm not talking about a prison, but a factory in China. In fact, the biggest iPhone factory in the country where workers are now fleeing. What are they trying to escape? China's zero-COVID nightmare. Tonight on Gravitas, in our cover story, we'll show you some shocking visuals to give you a glimpse into China's zero-COVID strategy. What began as a way to curb an infection is now turning into a nightmare for the citizens. Stay with us. Did you see that? Didn't it look like a prison escape? Who were these people and what were they trying to escape? Where were they trying to go? Well, let me assure you, these are not prisoners. They are workers. They worked at Apple's largest assembly factory in Zhengzhou, better known around the world as iPhone City. The factory is run by Foxconn, one of Apple's biggest suppliers. Why are they leaving? Well, these workers are scared. You see, there was a COVID outbreak, and China continues to stick with its strict zero-COVID approach. So the workers were locked up at their workplace. These people are now escaping that very lockdown. Where are they going? Well, many of them are taking a long walk back home. There is panic and chaos. Zero-COVID has triggered a major humanitarian crisis in China. Tonight, we'll tell you the entire story through 5 videos. Video number 1. These are a set of photographs. They went viral on Chinese social media. What do you see here? Different groups of people. Again, these are workers at Foxconn. They left iPhone City. None of them, as you can see, are empty-handed. Most of them have backpacks. Others are carrying their own personal belongings in their hands. You know, things like blankets, clothes, and other essentials, personal belongings. Where are they going? Reports say they chose to walk back to their hometowns on foot. No one really knows the exact number of people who left the city. But these pictures make it clear that for many of them, the journey back home is a difficult one. They are walking through highways and fields. I repeat, walking. But why such extreme measures? Well, it only seems to be the only way out to beat the zero-COVID restrictions in China. The Foxconn plant has been locked down for days now. People have been trapped in their dorms. Their movement has been severely limited, and authorities have a tight system to track the employees at this plant. There are claims that their living conditions had severely deteriorated. There was a risk of food shortages. Perhaps that's why these workers are taking such unprecedented steps. Take a look at this now. This is video number 2. Again, these are workers from that same Foxconn factory. Just look at what they had to endure. Clearly, they are desperate. There was a time when people flocked to the city to work in iPhone City. There's a good chance if you own an iPhone, it was produced in Jiangsu. It is known as the Foxconn Jiangsu Science Park. It produced 500,000 phones a day. Now that's up to 350 in a minute. Workers were taken care of. The facility had multiple 10 or 12-story buildings. The workers were given dorms there. They were given food. In fact, entrepreneurs and vendors flocked to the city to set up their business and serve the needs of the workers. And now, that same economy built on the back of iPhone production is collapsing. How big is the COVID outbreak there? We can't say for sure at this point. No numbers have been released by authorities. But the situation is deteriorating. Reports say food and medical supplies were running low. There was total chaos in the dormitories. The local officials have tried to step in and restore order. And they have now resorted to some extreme measures. Take a look at video number 3 now. Some workers who tried to escape were caught, and this is how they were punished. So what was it that the employees were being sprayed with? An anti-COVID spray. According to one claim, that is how China plans to contain a COVID outbreak, by blasting a disinfectant at workers. It's a desperate situation for the workers. Some good Samaritans stepped up to help. And this is video number 4. Take a look.
看兄弟们已经到咸阳了，这是给大家准备了一些中药啊，还有方便面、火腿肠、鸡蛋糕、雪碧、可乐啊、矿泉水，可以给大家泡啊，免费自取。
Thankfully, those workers got some help. Some others weren't so lucky, however. That brings me to video number 5. These workers, again from the Foxconn factory, took a ride home on the back of a truck. Reports say that some truck drivers tried to help the workers out who were trying to return home. Chinese authorities didn't spare these drivers either. Some were identified and sent to quarantine. We don't know what happened to the workers or whether they were able to reach back home safely. China's zero COVID policies are no longer about pandemic prevention. They are inflicting an economic and social toll. The workers are already paying a price for zero COVID. Apple has already pivoted away from China. It has started manufacturing the new iPhones in India. More people are suffering because of zero COVID. Disneyland in Shanghai shut its doors today due to an outbreak. Several visitors remain trapped inside. They cannot leave until their test results come back negative. These sudden lockdowns fuel further more instability. They might also force more businesses to reconsider their investment in China. Staying with China, next month the Chinese president will attend the G20 summit, a summit where he could possibly have a bilateral with Joe Biden. Yes, for months now, officials from both sides have hinted at a Biden-Xi bilateral in the near future. The first sit-down meeting between the two leaders. The possibility has been floating around for quite some time now. It first emerged back in July, when senior US officials said that they were trying to arrange a face-to-face meeting between the two. Then in September, White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said that the US and China are making active efforts for an in-person meeting. He said the two had already discussed the same over a phone call. A month on, and there's another hint. Look at the headline on your screen now. America's top diplomat Antony Blinken recently dialed China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. What was this phone call about? maintaining open lines of communication, and responsibly managing bilateral ties. Remember, this is the latest of several exchanges between American and Chinese officials. Reports say they indicate signs of a thaw, a defrosting of frozen ties. Is that really the case? It could be. Look at what the Chinese president said recently. He's willing to work with the United States. Exact words spoken. Interestingly, he said this in a letter to the National Committee on US-China Relations, China's topmost body for any kind of engagement with the Americans. The Chinese state broadcaster has released a detailed statement. Allow me now to quote the most operative part. Better communication between the two nations would bolster global peace and development. Our nation is willing to work with the US for the same. Interestingly, Xi Jinping's remarks echo his message from last year, which came ahead of a virtual summit with Joe Biden. Even then, he had struck a conciliatory tone and signaled an effort to maintain peace. A year on, he has extended an olive branch again. So how do we perceive this? What do we make of it? Can the two really be friends, or just back from the brink? They might just. But not without challenges. There are still a host of thorny issues which might impede improvement of ties. The first one, of course, is Taiwan. China won't stop threatening it, and America won't stop defending it. In fact, Joe Biden has gone to the extent of saying that he is willing to use force if China invades Taiwan. White House officials have tried to walk the statement back, but one can't think of a scenario where the US will be willing to abandon the Taiwan cause. One of the biggest leverages it has over the Chinese regime. China, too, considers Taiwan a part of the mainland and will never, in the wildest of imaginations, let go of it. And that's just one reason. There are multiple others which make the possibility of the two sides being friends far-fetched. Let me list some of them now. The suppression of democratic freedoms in Hong Kong. The human rights violations against the Uyghur Muslims. Beijing's muscle flexing in the South China Sea. Its never-ending standoffs with US allies. Its implicit support to North Korea and Russia. Its diplomatic overtures at all global forums. Simply put, the US and China may manage to dial down tensions which they have been on and off for the past few years. But to expect the two to become friends would be wishful thinking. That said, the diplomatic efforts being made by both sides, the attempts at building peace and avoiding confrontation are indeed a step in the right direction. They may not result in lasting peace, but might yield some short-term gains, which by all means will benefit all countries that have borne the brunt of their tussle. After all, the world would be a better place if these two global superpowers were not enemies. Right, let's move on and talk about Twitter now. It hasn't even been a week since Elon Musk bought the platform. The billionaire is already gearing up to make sweeping changes. The world remains glued to Musk's Twitter account right now. With every tweet, Musk is fueling a conversation. Even a minor change to his profile is now the subject of headlines. Let me explain. Since buying Twitter, Musk has changed his profile picture. It now features that famous sink that Musk took to the Twitter headquarters. There's a new bio. Musk now likes to call himself the chief twit. And of course, we have Musk's favorite weapon of choice, his tweets. They are now at the center of this story. In the last 24 hours, Musk has asked his followers if he should bring back WION. That's the old short video service that Twitter closed down a while back. He responded to a poll about himself. That's right. The poll question was, do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of Elon Musk? He sucks, was Musk's reply. And finally, he tried to discredit a news report about a controversial tweet that he deleted. Musk had shared an unfounded theory about the attack on Paul Pelosi, the husband of US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Musk has been active behind the scenes too. He has already made a series of decisions, moves that had a distinct stamp of authority. Less than 24 hours after buying Twitter, Musk changed the website's page, the homepage. Now, usually, Twitter would take weeks to push out these changes. Employees of Twitter had a habit of debating such changes. Not anymore. Musk wasted no time in declaring that there is a new sheriff in town. Apparently, the chief twit has given the Twitter engineers another task. Some reports have emerged. They claim that Musk wants users to now pay for that blue tick on the platform. Yes, I'm talking about the verified status. A status symbol of sorts if you are active on the platform. So far, Twitter has been quite selective in giving away those blue ticks. The platform has 240 million users. And by 2021, just about 400,000 users on Twitter were verified. So how were these verification badges given out? Twitter has complete control over this. Twitter was the sole arbiter in the matter. Now, according to the Twitter website, an account is worthy of a blue tick if it was of public interest, if it was authentic, notable, and of course active on the platform. Those are some very broad terms, and experts have quite often slammed Twitter for the lack of transparency around the process. Well, if the latest reports are to be believed, Musk could turn this entire process on its head. Here is what they said. Musk has directed Twitter's employees to change Twitter Blue. It is a subscription service that the platform recently rolled out. What are the changes being discussed? Change number one is price. Right now it is around $5. There is a proposal to raise this to $20. And Twitter could get tough with those who are verified. Those profiles with that blue tick mark might be forced to buy a subscription to retain it. They'll have 90 days to pay up, else they would lose that blue tick, lose that verification status. There is something else. Twitter employees have been given a deadline. Reports say they must launch the new features by the 7th of November. What will happen if they don't meet the deadline? Well, they could lose their jobs. Musk hasn't explicitly confirmed or denied these reports, but he's dropping some hints. Earlier today, he tweeted this. The whole verification process is being revamped right now, he says. There is a poll on Twitter. It asks users how much would they like to pay for these new features. Musk himself has left a comment. He called the poll interesting. There is more that is cooking behind the scenes. Last week, Musk removed several top executives of Twitter after taking charge. This included CEO Parag Agrawal. It seems Musk might not now pay them their severance. He is said to have terminated at least 4 executives for cause, meaning there was a reason behind their firing. Apparently, Musk wants to use this and avoid paying tens of millions of dollars to these executives. There could be more who could lose their jobs. Fresh reports claim that 25% of the company's workforce could be laid off. So where is all this going? What does Elon Musk want? What's his end game? I earlier spoke to tech journalist Adrian Mars from London about all this. I also asked him about Musk's big changes at Twitter, including the controversial paid blue tick feature. Here's what he said.
Well, nobody knows is the answer. I think it comes down to 2 things, though. He's declared himself a free speech absolutist. He wants to relax the moderation rules on Twitter, which is going to cause him a lot of problems. And he wants to make money. He's overpaid. Last quarter, it actually posted a loss. So it lost $270 million in second quarter this year's results, down from a 66 million profit with the same quarter last year. So he needs to make money. He's also there's a considerable debt has come along with the sale. He raised money to buy it, largely because Tesla's share prices had collapsed to some extent in the middle of him doing it. So that's essentially the aims. How he's going to do it, we don't entirely know. He's already talked about subscription services, and we've just heard that it's likely he's going to launch a subscription service for the blue tick, which is the thing that proves it's a verified account and that you're somebody of note. Whether he'll reduce the entry requirement for that and whether there are enough users who actually make money from their Twitter account and are therefore prepared to pay for it remains to be seen. So we don't know how that will go down. And a lot of what Musk says, we know doesn't happen. So I would say everything he says, take it with a pinch of salt. He's also planning on losing a lot of staff. He denied that one report that said that it was 75% of staff, and he's denied that he wants to get rid of them before the end of the month, which would cause them to lose their bonus shares, which would be a huge amount, and I think upset all staff. But we don't actually know for sure. He's also said on the moderation front that he wants to introduce a council, and this is largely what Facebook did, now called Meta, to decide the major moderating decisions. And that would be, as he said, with widely diverse views. Now, it hasn't entirely worked for Facebook. It doesn't really face a lot less controversy than it did before in the way it moderates things. But it may be a smart move because he's going to be in trouble as an individual and for his other businesses if he does increase free speech rather and moderate less. Then there's a lot of issues. For one thing, his other businesses are global, his global satellite broadband business, satellite launch business, and Tesla electric cars. If he, for instance, doesn't do what the Chinese want him to do, then his Chinese car factories and Chinese sales are at risk. The same is true of the satellites he launched for people and whether he can operate his broadband satellite network around the world. If he doesn't give in to the people demanding that it's more right wing and allows people like Trump to tweet, then he will be hated and derided by the far right. And they're a violent and scary bunch. So it's not an easy path to walk down. I think he's bought himself a bit of a nightmare.
Clearly, he says that Elon Musk seems to have bought himself a nightmare by acquiring Twitter. We'll, of course, stay on top of this story. For now, we're going to slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll tell you all about Lula da Silva, Brazil's next president.
It's code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening. Wildfires, floods, and hurricanes. Extreme climate events warn of impending doom. Is the world heading towards a climate catastrophe? Watch WION's Climate Tracker weekdays at 12 p.m. GMT, 5:30 p.m. IST.
You don't know how to fix the holes in our ozone layer. You don't know how to bring the salmon back up a dead stream. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct. And you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert.
You have ignored us in the past and you will ignore us again. We have run out of excuses and we are running out of time. Show us your faithfulness. Show us your trustworthiness. Show us your honesty. Prove us wrong. We desperately need you to prove us wrong. God help us all if you fail to prove us wrong. God help us.
One trillion species. 7.8 billion humans. 1.9 million species extinct. One planet. Where are we heading? What should we do?
Watch Climate Tracker, only on WION. World is One.
From the world's most volatile region, conflicts over faith and boundaries. Stories of death, destruction, despair, and hope. WION brings you to the heart of the action. Incisive analysis, unrivaled perspective, and exclusive ground reports. Watch West Asia Post every Friday, 8:30 p.m. IST with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
Stay connected with the world through WION. Like the page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter for new alerts. Instagram for videos and images. And the website for the latest news, views, and analysis. WIONews.com. World is One.
It's code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening. Wildfires, floods, and hurricanes. Extreme climate events warn of impending doom. Is the world heading towards a climate catastrophe? Watch WION's Climate Tracker, weekdays at 12 p.m. GMT, 5:30 p.m. IST.
Right, welcome back. You're watching Gravitas with me, Priyanka Sharma. Let's now put the spotlight on Brazil. The election is over and Luis Inácio Lula da Silva is president once more. The leftist leader will take over from Jair Bolsonaro. Congratulations are pouring in for Lula from all over the world. We bring you more details in our next report. Take a look. The crowds were ecstatic. Fireworks were being burst. The air was ringing with chants of Lula. The former president narrowly won the runoff elections. He defeated incumbent Jair Bolsonaro. The tightly contested polls saw Lula da Silva emerge as the victor, with about 50.9% of the vote. Brazil's Supreme Electoral Court declared Lula the next president. He will take over on January the 1st, almost 20 years after he first became president. After the polls, Lula made a speech.
We arrive at the end of one of the most important elections of our country, one that put face-to-face two different, opposed country projects, and today the only winner is the Brazilian people. This isn't a victory of mine or the Workers' Party, nor the parties that supported me in the campaign. It's the victory of a democratic movement that formed above political parties, personal interests and ideologies, so that democracy came out victorious.
Lula da Silva struck a conciliatory tone with his opponent's supporters. He will have to work to unite a highly polarized nation, and he may yet have to deal with Bolsonaro not conceding.
A defeated president would have already called me to acknowledge defeat. He still hasn't called. I don't know if he's going to call. I don't know if he's going to recognize my victory.
Last year, Bolsonaro had discussed refusing to accept the results of the vote. He claimed that Brazil's electronic voting system was vulnerable to fraud. The allegations were disproved, but Bolsonaro's silence has sparked worries about what he may do next. However, the rest of the world seems to have accepted the election results as legitimate. Lula joins the wave of leftist leaders being elected to power. Congratulations poured in from his fellow leftists in Cuba, Colombia, Argentina and the rest. But it isn't just the neighboring leftist nations. Congratulations poured in for Lula from the rest of the world too. US President Joe Biden congratulated him on Twitter and referred to the elections as free, fair and credible. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak hailed Lula's victory and said that he looks forward to working with him. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi sent out a tweet congratulating Lula da Silva on his victory as well. Russian President Vladimir Putin also congratulated Lula. In a statement on the Kremlin website, Putin said he hoped for strengthened Brazil-Russia ties. China's foreign ministry, meanwhile, released the following statement.
China sincerely congratulates Mr. Lula on his re-election as President of Brazil and wishes Brazil new achievements in its nation-building endeavors. China and Brazil are both large developing countries and important emerging markets, and they are each other's comprehensive strategic partners.
Lula da Silva has vowed to reverse Bolsonaro's policies in the Amazon. Deforestation reached a 15-year high during Bolsonaro's presidency. Lula had this to say after his victory.
We are going to reinstitute vigilant monitoring of the Amazon and fight against any illegal mining of minerals, lumber extraction or land clearing for agriculture. At the same time, we are going to promote sustainable development in communities of the Amazon. We are going to prove once again it's possible to generate wealth without destroying the environment.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz had said that he looks forward to cooperating with Lula on climate protection. World leaders from across the political spectrum have acknowledged Lula's victory. Bolsonaro may not have international backing if he insists on contesting the results. But will that deter Bolsonaro? Well, his nickname is the Tropical Trump, so his next move may be similar to that of his North American counterpart. Our next story is about Rishi Sunak, the new Prime Minister of Britain, barely a week in office, and he stoked his first big controversy. It concerns the climate, something that Sunak isn't concerned about. I'm not saying this, his critics are. They say Sunak is washing his hands off leadership on climate action. Why? Because he's not attending the COP27 climate summit. It is scheduled to be held in Egypt next month, and Sunak had said that he's not going. That's earlier. So why is that? Due to some pressing commitments. That's what 10D had said in its statement. Allow me to quote. The Prime Minister is focused on pressing domestic issues, most significantly preparing for the autumn statement. So any attendance at COP would depend on progress, on preparation for that fiscal event, and that work is ongoing. So how pressing are these domestic issues? In one word, quite. Remember, he has inherited a stagnant economy, thanks to his predecessor Liz Truss. Her tax plan has crippled the UK's coffers. It has sent the pound plunging to new lows and amplified the possibility of a recession. Sunak was elected to clear this mess, so he wants to focus on the task at hand. For him, meeting world leaders at a climate summit is not the priority. His country's economy definitely is. That's the message he's trying to send out. Unfortunately, the message has not gone down too well, especially with the host country, Egypt. It has expressed disappointment at Sunak's decision and has asked King Charles to come in his place, who, by the way, is not going. Egypt is not alone in expressing disappointment. There are several others. Like the UK's Labour Party, its leader Keir Starmer has called Sunak's decision an absolute failure of climate leadership. He says if he was the Prime Minister, he would definitely go, no matter what. Mohammed Nasheed, the Maldives' former president and Speaker of Parliament, says it's very worrying that the UK thought there was anything more serious than climate change. You can count the pennies, but might lose the pounds. There's more. Alok Sharma, the outgoing COP26 president, has also slammed Sunak's decision. I'm quoting again. I'm disappointed that the Prime Minister is not going. I understand that he's got a huge entry of domestic issues that he has to deal with. But going to COP27 would allow for engagement with other world leaders. If you look at what happened in the Australian elections this summer, one of the reasons that the Conservatives didn't win is because people didn't feel they took the issue seriously enough. This criticism hasn't gone unnoticed. Sunak himself has responded. He says he's committed to the climate, but has to focus on the economy first. Allow me to quote, "The leadership that we have shown on the climate is unmatched almost along the world. If you look at what we've done in this country, we're an example for others to follow at the pace in which we've reduced climate emissions. I just think at the moment it's right that I'm also focusing on the pressing domestic challenges that we have with the economy." Once again, he says the UK economy is his priority. Immediately after this statement, 10 Downing too came up with a response. It said that Sunak's decision to attend the summit is now under review, meaning there's still a chance that he could go to Egypt. It all depends on whether he manages to get time from his commitments. Now here's the thing, Sunak's claim that he cannot go to the summit due to professional commitments is hard to buy. A one-day stopover in Egypt won't really affect his plans. So the criticism he's facing is not really unwarranted, especially given the fact that the UK was a host for last year's climate summit. So a British leader shunning the summit is quite embarrassing. At the same time, the fact that he has buckled under pressure and has put his decision under review doesn't help his political image. As far as optics are concerned, my point is simple. Sunak needs to make up his mind. Either he's in or he's not. But backtracking on this decision, that too when he has just come to power, doesn't really send the right message. Especially to his conservative voter base, which is already fed up with irresolute leaders. Now let me tell you what's happening in Australia. Former captain Virat Kohli has fallen victim to a serious privacy breach. He was recently in Perth with the rest of the Indian cricket team to play a match. While Kohli was away from his hotel room, a group of individuals entered. They made a video of his belongings and posted the same on social media. The cricketer revealed his ordeal on Instagram. He has termed the incident appalling. Take a look.
The Indian cricket team is worshipped by a loyal legion of followers. Indian players are followed by thousands of fans wherever they go, from the field to the airport and even on the streets. One place they can expect to get some privacy are their hotel rooms. But a major breach in Perth has raised an alarm. A group of individuals entered former captain Virat Kohli's hotel room. They filmed his belongings and uploaded the video on social media. The clip, shared by Kohli as well, shows a man walking around his room and capturing the player's personal belongings on his phone. He even takes a peek inside the cupboards. The man wasn't alone. Towards the end of the video, two more people can be seen standing near Kohli's bag. The Indian team was staying at the Crown Resorts in Perth over the weekend. They were in the city to play South Africa. The hotel has issued an unconditional apology. It revealed that this video was shot by a contractor. The hotel says the individuals involved have been stood down and removed from the Crown's account. Fellow cricketers and other celebrities have supported Kohli and lashed out at the hotel. The International Cricket Council has also taken note. It has termed the incident a gross invasion of privacy. Virat Kohli isn't the first public figure to experience such an invasion to his privacy. In 2014, a stalker broke into the home of Hollywood star Sandra Bullock. The intruder had made his way into her house. Bullock, who was alone at the time, had to hide herself in a closet. The police had managed to arrest the stalker. Singer Taylor Swift has had several stalkers try to break into her various homes. In 2021, two men were arrested in New York. They had separately tried to get inside Swift's apartment. One of them was sentenced to prison for 30 months. He was stalking Swift and even threatened to kill the singer. The breach of Kohli's privacy is now being investigated. The Indian team is now in Adelaide, where it will play Bangladesh next on the 2nd of November. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
How old are you? Do you know when you will retire? Or perhaps I should phrase that differently. Are you ready to retire? Do you have enough saved up? When should you start saving? All my questions tonight are directed to a particular section of the population, Gen Z and millennials. Why am I choosing to focus on these two groups today? Because they are the ones associated with most emerging workplace trends. Some are the quiet quitters. Others are the loud workers. Many are burnt out. Others were part of the Great Resignation. Some are unhappy with their managers, while others are exiting the workforce on a whim. It's a section of the population which is driving the recent mass exodus from the workforce globally. Gen Z, they are driven, they are opinionated, they are aware of pressing issues, be it climate change or inflation. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but they're headed for a bigger crisis than the climate crisis. It's called early retirement. In a recent survey, a third of Gen Z respondents said they were worried about the cost of living crisis above everything else. Around 45% live paycheck to paycheck, and just more than a quarter doubt they'll retire comfortably. They worry they won't be able to meet their expenses. So what could usher in an early retirement? Well, as technology takes over our lives, progress comes with its own casualties. Many companies may move up the retirement age for employees, so if the retirement age is 60 in your country currently, this could be moved up by a decade. Why? Because newer technology may make you redundant. This is not my ominous warning. Billionaires have made similar predictions. In fact, back in 2017, Meta co-founder Mark Zuckerberg had said that our generation will have to deal with tens of millions of jobs replaced by automation. Even Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates echoed this concern when he spoke about artificial intelligence taking over our jobs. Both of them had a simple warning that technology could eliminate many jobs. More than 5 years later, that prediction is coming true before our eyes. Artificial intelligence is coming for your jobs. So what happens if your company moves up the retirement age? Does Gen Z have enough savings in the bank? A retirement corpus, so to speak? I don't blame you if you don't. Some of you are just entering the workforce. Some of you have already exited it, disillusioned. Some of you are straddled with debt. The pandemic was a watershed moment for all of us. But for Gen Z, it changed everything. Delayed milestones, made you rethink priorities. But now more than ever, it's important to rethink your financial priorities. So as you come out of the pandemic and make your 5-year plans, factor in a new crisis, early retirement. This, coupled with rising life expectancy, could complicate your plans. The question is, does Gen Z have a plan in place to secure its future? Should they be forced to retire early? It's a concern worth mulling over. Research from last year shows that at least 60% of boomers will enter retirement without sufficient savings. Now, boomers are the generation before the millennials and Gen Z. Remember, they too are battling rising prices across the world. My point is, the situation could be far worse for the youngest generation. So what should you do? Well, for starters, educate yourself about financial tools. Speak to your parents, your forever financial advisors, as they say. Ask them how to save, when to save, where to park your money. And if you can, seek the advice of a financial expert. But most importantly, stop investing in fleeting trends. Don't let others' experiences fool you into quitting a job on a whim. Remember, it's your future which is at stake. And now it's time to see what else made news globally in Gravitas Global Headlines.
Russia claims that it would be risky for Ukraine to continue exporting grain via the Black Sea after Moscow suspended its participation in a UN-brokered deal to facilitate shipment. 9 people arrested in connection with the collapse of a bridge in the western Indian state of Gujarat that killed more than 130 people. Iran will hold public trials of about 1,000 people charged in Tehran over unrest, as authorities step up efforts to crush protests ignited by Mahsa Amini's death in custody. Eurozone economic growth falls to 0.2% in the third quarter, as inflation hits another record high on the back of soaring energy prices. Philippine rescuers wade through thigh-deep mud to search for bodies buried by a landslide as the death toll from a powerful storm rises to 101. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg says that she will skip next month's COP27 talks in Egypt, slamming the global summit as a forum for greenwashing. Hackers have targeted a communications platform used by Australian military personnel and defense staff with a ransomware attack as the country battles a spike in cyber attacks. South Koreans gather at memorials honoring the 154 people killed in a crowd surge at Halloween celebrations as authorities face accusations that lax crowd control led to the disaster. Red Bull's Max Verstappen broke the record for wins in a season with his 14th victory of the year at the Mexican Grand Prix. The reigning world champion held off a challenge from Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes to cruise to a third straight win. Defending champions Australia kept their semi-final hopes alive at the T20 World Cup with a 42-run victory over Ireland. Captain Aaron Finch returned to form with a half-century in Brisbane, and Ireland struggled in their chase of 179, getting bowled out for 137.
And that's a wrap on tonight's show. Thanks for watching Gravitas with me, Priyanka Sharma, leaving you as always with Gravitas Images.
第112中正塔。